Andrew, I mean, with the regular season, 106 wins. In the postseason, you guys ultimately fell short of just the goal of repeating, winning another World Series championship. But overall, how would you evaluate the 2021 Dodgers season?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. There's a lot to be proud of, but obviously we fell short of our ultimate goal. And so I think as we sit here now, it's about looking back on the year and the positive things that happened, individual, continued maturation and development, the core that we have in place, and as we start to look at how to complement, how to round out, it's taking stock of the positive developments and things that did happen as we look forward to 2022.
And there was a season that was kind of, injuries was a topic of conversation since really the beginning. How challenging was it kind of just managing and working through this season compared to other seasons in years past?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's part of what's great and terrible about baseball is that each year is such a distinct, different event, and different things play out. There's no real playbook in terms of what will happen and when, and the concentration of injuries or whether they're more spaced out. We anticipated, kind of industry-wide that there would be an uptick just coming off the shorter season, and we certainly, had our fair share. I'm sure others teams did as well. I haven't really dug into it as much yet, but you have to be as prepared as you can be and anticipate those things happening. Obviously that last weekend with Bunce and Kirsch going down, right when you're at the very end, was tough, but baseball's part of it. It provided opportunity for someone else to step up. And, I think there are a lot of positives even as you look at October, and there are some things that we have to evaluate and continue to dig in on. And I think the freshness of it, we haven't gone through that completely, but everything from our standpoint is looking back just to help inform us as we look forward.
Because of the number of free agents you have and the prominence of those players, is this the most challenging offseason you've had since you got here? Is the potential for change greater?
No. I mean, I think each offseason feels that way to me when we're mired in it. Again, I get the focus on our impending free agents. Our folks will be there as well soon too. But we also have a really good core in place and a really strong group that's returning with some players coming up that we feel really good about. And so as we look forward, it's about whether it's our internal guys or external guys, it's how to round out our roster to put us in the best position to succeed. And I'm confident we'll get there. I don't know exactly what that will look like yet, but that's why we have the winner.
But you talk about the core group that you have. The free agents include people who are in that core group.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a better question for spring training because we'll just know more of which guys we retained and which guys we didn't. But I do feel really confident that we're going to have a really good team in place as we open camp in Glendale.
Okay. I think fans want to know two things looking back to the postseason. First of all, the pitching decisions that were made. Ultimately, who makes those decisions? How do you guys prepare to make those decisions? And how will you evaluate how those decisions unfold?
Yeah, I mean, I've answered this question each year after. They're Dave's decision with Danny Lehman, Mark Pryor, and Bob Gehrig guys in the dugout. We do a lot of work to prepare ahead of time to understand how certain relievers match up against certain hitters, and they go through and figure out runs. Games play out in so many different ways that it's impossible to anticipate it before. And so those decisions are made in the dugout as they should be because so many things have changed in the 2.5, 3, 4 hours, from when, just kind of going through it. I think it's more, and I think, just to compliment Dave and our coaching staff, their focus is on doing everything they can to put our players in the best positions to succeed. And by doing that, obviously we win a lot more games than we lose if we continue to do that. We have the requisite talent to be able to do it. But the answer is no different than what it's been. And in game, during those moments, it's 100% their decision. And as I've said in the past, there are a lot of things that happen in the course of a game that personally I disagree with, and oftentimes they work out on what we actually did. So many decisions that are made are in that middle. They're 40-60, 45-55, like very few things are on extremes. And so being in the dugout, I think, is a different, you have a different feel for those things than you do, sitting in the stands, meaning me. And things that come up and factors that have played out that I don't know about until after the game. But I think they're really good at making decisions.
And then offensively, how do you diagnose like what went wrong? You guys, I think it was you with 4 runs, including 507 after the games. I know not having Muncie is a big deal, but
Yeah.
they didn't have some big bats either, neither did the Giants. How would you diagnose how the offense did about the organization?
Yeah, we needed someone to step up and pull an Eddie Rosario. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very fair question. I don't know the answer. After we made the Trey Turner deal, in my opinion, 1 through 8, it was the deepest, best lineup I've been around. But it didn't quite play like that over those 2 months, and it was just a little bumpier than I would have expected. I thought by having that lineup depth, it could withstand some guys who, it's inevitable, a couple week stretch where a couple guys are out of rhythm, other guys are hot, other guys are more kind of in the middle, and it just kind of ebbs and flows. But we hit some real stretches where 5, 6 guys in the lineup were kind of struggling at the same time. How much of that is baseball? How much of it is stuff that we can do differently? I don't know the answer to it. But there's been a lot of talk in years past about our reliance on slug, and this year was the perfect combination. We had more team speed up and down our lineup, where we stole a lot of bases, which was great in that it increased chances to score runs. We just had a hard time converting it, and to me that's a big part of this postseason was just our struggle to consistently score runs, and feeling like we had the lineup depth to do that. It just didn't play out that way, and figuring out the why is important. As we all know, a lot of things in baseball are hard to tease out and get to the why, but we'll at least spend time trying.
Okay, over here. Kind of going back to the decisions in the postseason. Why do you guys obviously you guys know more things that we don't know, but why do you guys feel better to kind of go utilize the starters the way you guys did, as opposed to kind of keeping them in their same role and then kind of using a bullpen that was really good throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to kind of break that up into different chunks. Game 5, winner take all, all hands on deck is one thing. In the middle of a series is a different thing. I think the winner take all, just the way things got sped up, and I think had Kinley's spot not come up in the top of the 9th, my guess is he pitches the 9th. But I think part of it also is Max's level of conviction. Hey, I've done this before. I did this in 19, and I responded like it had no effect on me, which is great because everything in this game is individualized. We can't treat everyone the exact same way. Different bodies respond differently. Different guys handle situations differently. So knowing that bit of information, I think gave Mark, Doc even more conviction. Like, hey, let's hit for Kinley here, try to tack on, and then be able to go to Max. So now in retrospect, the way it ended up playing out, I think it's easy to say, oh yeah, we would have done something differently. But I think at that time, I think it made a lot of sense personally. And then the game 2, I totally get both sides of the argument. Again, it gets back to the things that are, kind of in that middle. But that one I totally get the question to. I think, it's obviously a better question for Doc and Mark.
But certainly get both sides. Yeah, and going back to the offense, there were multiple times over the course of the year and then in October where Dave sort of mentioned the approach maybe was sort of waning or lacking, wasn't quite that same way as it was in recent years. I know you said that there's a lot of things you're diving into, but how much is that sort of something you guys are going to try to pare down this winter?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tease out. I think, a lot of times when a team is struggling to score runs, it's easy to say, oh, they're not playing with energy. Well, of course we're not. We don't have guys on base. It's impossible to play with energy when you don't have action. And so everything is so interconnected that it's hard. And, I think it's going through each individual player and what kind of physical ailments were going on at the time, bad habits that were potentially caused from it, that are a few different instances that we've, kind of put our finger on with a couple of guys. Some of it is like just sequencing of hits and how things came together. There's so many different factors. We're going to try to roll our sleeves up and try to get at things that, at this point, all that matters is that will help us next year as we're hopefully encountering similar things and, ways we can kind of expedite, getting from being in a rut to being an explosive offense again. So we've got some time to kind of work through that.
And are there any updates on any of the injured guys that played? Muncy, Turner, Kelly?
Not really. I think Muncy, JT, Kirsch, I think are, it is what it is, and we kind of know what it is, and we can kind of rehab, and they know what they're focusing on. I think Joe's still getting to the bottom of it, but is doing better. What else?
Any questions for Andrew?
Andrew, with the CBA expiring and free agency and all the free agents that you guys have on this team, how do you look to kind of manage that situation just if the CBA does end up kind of moving?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so much of it will get back to the individual player and what their mindset is. These guys have worked really hard to put themselves in position to be a free agent and to figure out what makes the most sense for them. In some instances, I can see someone saying, hey, I want to be here. Let's engage and talk about that. Others, it could be, I want to fully vet out the market. Neither answer is right or wrong. Really personal. And so I think we'll kind of draft off of each individual guy and what their mindset is and figure it out as we go.
With guys like Kenley Jansen and Clayton Kershaw, who have not only tenure, but just leadership within this organization, are conversations, or is there anything you can share from conversations with them on any kind of, that there's a goal to get them kind of signed, I guess, earlier?
Again, I think they're going to drive that. And so much of it's going to be like what makes the most sense for them and their family. And I think to the extent that basically any of our guys are like, hey, let's engage now, then great. And that said, I totally get the other side of it as well. And they want to understand the market and vet that out and have more awareness of what the alternatives are. I understand that as well.
Andrew, are you prepared for a lockout if there's no deal reached by the deadline?
Well, I guess in that we'd have to be. I think from our standpoint, we are one of 30 teams. There are people working really hard at that. And as soon as we have news on that, obviously we need to be prepared accordingly. And whenever that is, we more just are reading the news kind of like you guys and then reacting based on what's going on.
And just a follow-up, will Trevor Bauer pitch for this team again?
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than where we were in July, August, September. From our standpoint, it's being handled by the league office. As soon as something is decided, obviously we will come down and talk through it extensively with you guys, but until that happens, we have to kind of reserve comment.
Do you have any timetable or any sense from them how close they are?
I don't really.
All right, Andrew, while we're on it, how much does that decision, whether they suspend him for how long, how much does that impact what you guys can do this offseason, and how much of a domino effect do you think that could have?
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously it will have some. The extent of it, I don't know yet. But, obviously it's, it's something real and we have to figure out what that means, but it will more fall out of whatever MLB, after they've gone through their investigation, whatever they decide is what they decide, and then we'll have to figure out from there what makes the most sense for us. We talked a lot in spring training. We were on the more aggressive side with our payroll this year, and in other years we've not been as aggressive as this, and more kind of able to in certain years be more aggressive, in certain years peel back, but always having that core talent in place to be able to go out and win. And so the number one objective for us is going to be to put ourselves in the best position to win in 2022, and I feel confident we'll be able to do that.
And while we're on it still, you mentioned the vetting process last year when you guys did bring in Trevor Bauer. When you go out and pursue free agents again this winter in the future, trades, whatever the case may be, will the vetting process be any different?
It's a good question. And obviously, once we're able to talk more about Trevor, we can get into that specifically. We will try to. Once we're able to talk more about it, it'll be easier to answer that more directly. We always want as much information as we can possibly get. There are some restrictions on what we can do, but we always want as much as we can. And so, I would hope with everything we do, we're better now than we were 2 years ago, better than 5 years ago, better than 10 years ago, and I hope 5 years from now we're way better than we are now. And so we're continuing to learn and grow and evolve and learn from mistakes and continue to get better at everything we do.
Do you consider that a mistake? Do you regret signing him?
We will talk about it when we can.
You can have regrets now.
Couple last one, PG.
Given the free agency of a couple of those guys and the depletion of the rotation this year, how much of a project is rebuilding that? The starting rotation.
Yeah, we've got some really good guys in place. That being said, we're going to need to address that. We've got a really good group of young starting pitchers coming. With Mitch White, Andre Jackson, we saw some of this year. Bobby Miller, Ryan Pepio, Landon Knack, who will all be upper levels or major leagues when we start the year. Really gives us a really strong foundation of depth. And so now we're rounding out. The rotation will definitely be something that we're focused on as we get into the winter.
Can you say, I was going to ask about, this winter's needs, seem like starting pitching is a big one. Have you sort of identified some of your other most important, biggest areas of need?
Yeah, we just have to figure out, we've got some versatility within our position player group. Obviously, we have some guys that are free agents as well, and we just have to figure out kind of the configuration. Obviously feel like we will be returning a really good core of offensive players, but we're going to have to round that out. Exactly what that means and what positions, I'm not sure yet because we have some flexibility. Bullpen, I think we're in a really strong spot to start the winter. That being said, we're going to be open-minded to continue to reinforce it, but I don't think I've never in my career been in this good of a position regarding the bullpen when the offseason starts. Just the guys who are returning, Caleb Ferguson and Tommy Connolly coming back, and so for us it allows us to be a little bit more selective in terms of who we're targeting.
Two more, Fabian.
Do you expect there to be a lot of outside interest, whether it be the coaching staff, front office, and how much sort of the retention stuff that's really important to you this morning?
Yeah, that's every year. We arguably lead the league in it every offseason, and we're already well into the double digits to complement and potentially good opportunities for other people. That being said, we have a lot of people that have been a huge part of the success we've had, and we'll do everything we can to keep as many of this group together, but not standing in the way of great opportunity, and I'm sure there will be for different people, as we go.
last one long.
And this might be kind of stupid, but with a guy like Kershaw, with everything he's accomplished, do you treat him kind of different than any other impending free agent, just given everything that's kind of?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And obviously what he's meant to this organization, to this city, I think, again, from his standpoint, I think it's all about what makes the most sense for him and Ellen and their family. I think there's something, taking off my present baseball operations hat, there's something nostalgic and great about, Kirsch playing with one team and, being able to win another championship and having a parade. That being said, he's put himself in this position to be able to go out and do whatever makes the most sense for his family, and we will support that.
Yeah, have you gotten any sense, like, what's playing this year? It's probably too soon for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just wants to feel good again and get to that point where he's healthy, and, I'm sure we'll have conversations throughout the winter.
Thanks, guys.